inside, deep down inside, deep inside, deep down inside.
Have you ever fucked with the instincts?
It's nice. I'm joined this evening by six-time winner for the most smoldering Enneagram guru, John Luckovich, who is also the author of The Instinctual Drives and the Enneagram. So you've already written a book on the instincts, and you have another book coming about the instincts. Tell us more about that, John.
Um, yeah, thanks. I'm working on a new book. It's taken, books take a long time, so I say that, and I took 6 years on that book. And so, who knows if this will ever come out or whatever, but it's trying to be the sort of um, my comprehensive take on the entire Enneagram. Everything from including trifix, including stackings, including inner lines of the Enneagram. But in the last couple years, the working with essence and essence qualities has become much more primary. The last chapter of my book that's already out is it has a lot to do with inner work and inner work from how do I put it, it's not just helpful tips for self-improvement or some kind of often I find that inner work is described in a very all over the place kind of way. Like it's just like being better version of yourself. And I was connecting with a lot more like Sufi elements and Gurdjieffian elements and about what it actually means to learn non-identification. And so what I'm working on, I think, takes that a little bit further and use the Enneagram, integrates Enneagrammatic insights and things about the essential qualities in a more in a more profound way. So we'll see where it goes. I've just got a lot of new ideas about some of the deeper like more ideas about each type in general and each instinctual stacking and all that and getting very thorough on it, but also like in terms of the spirituality of the Enneagram and there's just been more opening up. And so um with Big Hormone finished, I kind of am trying to figure out like how to bring myself forward in a way that's not reliant on other people. I'm debilitatingly just obsessed with the Enneagram and the roots it comes from. And I've almost every time I do any kind of like drugs, I have this sense that the Enneagram has the Enneagram itself has some intelligence and has chosen me to do something with it. And so as soon as I like vomit out all the ideas I have about it, then my life is basically over and useless and has no shelf life. So and I'm kind of happy to I'm I feel like I'm trying to the Enneagram was sort of birthed into the world through Naranjo and Achazo, or I should say Achazo and then Naranjo, and plenty of flaws. And other teachers have done whatever. And I feel like there's some way that being a four, my whininess and my fussiness around things is uh, being used to kind of um, take the Enneagram from being kind of the garbage it's been and trying to get really deep and really serious with it. And, I see all over social media where, we're all in this sort of collective depression and collective malaise about existence and about ourselves. And it's like everything spiritual that should be offering something more is really very shallow. And then I get a lot of content on relationships, right? Like a lot of pseudo therapists on social media therapists, and they all most of them take they talk about relationships and dating and finding a partner and working out conflict in a way that often, at least what's popular right now is seeing a lot of like, oh, they should completely regulate your nervous system and it should be very easy. And that's completely true and valid, but there's other elements that I think, speaking of sexual instinct, like how do you include the sexual instinct and what does that actually mean in a healthy way that is missing? So there's a lot of like practical elements of the Enneagram that I feel like are completely overlooked and ignored. And so it's not so much like, oh, it's like find the market, but it's more like,
That's me right now.
yeah, like I'd love to make money instead of living in this piece of shit room, but
Oh,
the real thing is like it is crazy that this system applies to every single human being in every single relationship. It is with you in every single moment, in every breath, every human being, and yet it's sort of treated more like a quiz and more like the insane universality and the insane way that it characterizes and brings not only clarity and understanding, but also like when you see what's already missing in something, you can add something else into your experience that like changes it, makes it more like enjoyable, more interesting, more mysterious, more everything. And you see how people, sorry I'm ranting, but like you see how
love
people
it.
that are kind of like a bunch of people annoy me, and I'm sure a bunch of people annoy you, right? Like, and you're able to see with the Enneagram like where they're coming from, even if you don't fucking agree with it or whatever. You see something that they're coming from, and like if they're really annoying, you can kind of get like you can still angle it to where you're like you're seeing the kernel of what's like real and what they're offering instead of them just being a complete dismissive asshole and living in a bubble. You know what I'm
I use Enneagram as a weapon for sure. Like I knew I would. I knew I would become like Nicolas Cage in Con Air.
saying?
We can't arrest me though. I'm a psychological criminal.
I'm not like I talk about inner work, but it doesn't mean I'm like a master or like I'm fucked up and have all my same bullshit as anybody else, but um I think that that is another thing that we kind of imagine that dissuades us from that like journey to be ourselves, which is that we have to be like extra good at what we're doing or like present all the time, or like I have to be a really good person, or I have to be without flaws like to be in touch with my identity and to honor the things I care about. You know what I'm trying to say? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see it more as like a Neo, like Neo in the Matrix thing though, where it's like you start to see yourself in the pattern and then it's like almost like these options come up on the screen that are like this one would actually be the more preferable outcome for me with my actual like thing that I want. So like if I do this, this is gonna feel good because of my type. But like if I do this, then this might lead to this, and then I might actually get more of what I want. Like I don't know. I'm trying to opportunistically hack the Enneagram. So
It's something like, as soon as we start to like believe that we're like outside of our patterns or something like that, uh, we're delusional.
I
And
don't know, man. I don't know. I'm aiming for it. I feel like I'm gonna crack the fucking matrix, and the Enneagram is the key, the skeleton key that I'm using to collapse the simulation. Like I really feel so strongly about that.
I, I mean, I agree with you, but it's like we're in the matrix and we're out of the matrix at the same time. You know what I mean? Like there's a part of it that's like always in the matrix and a part of this that's always out. And it's sort of like we toggle between identifying with one or the other. And if we recognize that we're both in it and out of it at the same time, I think that's like a law of three kind of like
You think there's a liminal space?
not necessarily, but it's sort of like like how do I put it? Like if we think we're like free, we're not free, right? And then if we think we're enslaved, we're not actually being truthful to ourselves because there's a part of us that can never actually be enslaved. And so it's sort of like holding
I don't
two
feel
sides.
enslaved. What are the basics of the instincts? TLDR, SPSOSX. If you were to condense them into like a little shiny nutshell.
Well, the first thing I think that's really important in understanding instincts is that they are not survival strategies. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make online in terms of how they think about the instincts is that these are strategies for survival.
Hmm.
And the instincts instead are drives to regulate ourselves.
Ooh, yeah.
And, when you decide that the instincts are survival strategies, then you start working backwards intellectually to justify how they're survival strategies. And I see people make up all kinds of bullshit, like, for example, the sexual is the 101 instinct because, oh, it's a survival instinct. How do you survive with a sexual instinct? Oh, it's a pair bonding instinct. And so they decided it's intimacy based on this idea that instinct means survival. And instinct can mean a lot of things. Like in our normal language, it sometimes means reflexes. Sometimes it means a drive. Sometimes it means a behavior. In the context of the Enneagram, like what is an instinct? And an instinct is a motivational drive to meet specific biological and emotional needs. These biological and emotional needs are the ways that we regulate ourselves. And oftentimes they're in conflict. If I give enough attention to one instinct, I'm taking away attention from another instinct. Trade-offs in how we regulate. And if we become identified with the instincts, that's the whole reason they're related to the Enneagram or talked about in the same they're I don't know how to say this, but like the reason the instincts are involved with the Enneagram at all is because we get identified with them. The Enneagram is about identification and how we free ourselves from identification. And so to have a dominant instinct is to be identified with that instinct. And it means that regulating ourselves through that instinct is more than just a sense of how I survive, but our psychological sense of self or identity is at stake.
Yeah, that makes sense, the identity part. Do you like also feel like though it's also the source of juice? Like it's the source of like why I'm alive? Like kind of more
Totally.
because I feel like even like sometimes like I know like some self-pressed sixes where it's like they almost get like horny off problems. Like they get horny off my basement flooded and it's like, oh God, my house caught on fire. It's like, but it's like they fucking love it. It's like they love having to fix the fucking problem. Like or solve the problem or whatever it is. And it's like you like that. You made that happen. You love fucking attracted that shit. Like, because I feel like that's what it is. It's like it's almost like your law of attracting and your main instinct, where it's like you're gonna like create like even if you're like a sexual like in the middle of nowhere, you're gonna somehow create a sexual drama. There's gonna be something that like manifests out of nothing almost.
100%. Like, you know, um, one of the common, again, when people like, because there's so much stuff out there about the Enneagram and instincts, a lot of times I'm very aware of how people, like what I will have to walk people through to unlearn certain things so they can learn new things.
Hmm.
One of the things that people have to unlearn is that the sexual is the passion instinct or it's like the instinct of what you're passionate about. And
Oh, I
what
see.
what you're passionate about is instinct. Like things we feel passionate for, regardless of what they are, it means an instinct is involved.
Mhm.
And so what you described is like being horny for a problem. 100% accurate. Because there's sort of this juice, like in a social problem or a sexual problem or a self-pres problem, where you can feel somebody kind of like getting off on it in a certain way of
Yeah.
like, you ever seen
Disturbing when people get off on SP stuff. It's like I don't want to hear any more about your pillows, you big fucking sicko. Like
have you seen Uncut Gems?
I actually really like Uncut Gems, but
I like Uncut Gems too,
I
but
like
it is
High Life or whatever that one was. Good Times. I like Good Times better. Yeah.
I agree with you, but Uncut Gems is self-pres 7 Eros in self-pres, it's
Oh my
like
God. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're right. Gluttony, like the gluttony for the shiny object.
the shiny object and it's this gem and we're gonna escalate and we're gonna get more money, we're gonna bet, and then there's like all this anxiety throughout the whole movie, like you see movies where people are getting like slaughtered and murdered, and you're like, whatever. But like Uncut Gems was like, like you can feel the seven anxiety of like, all right, we're betting on the next thing, and it's gonna get better. It's gonna, and it's like, God, yeah. Uncut Gems is self-pres social seven energy, but you can feel the like horniness around the gambling and the gem, and like, it's almost mystical. You know what I mean?
Did you watch
Myself,
Die My Darling?
no.
That was a sexual instinct movie for sure. The one with Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson. It was very poorly written. Like I love Lynn Ramsey, but there was no fucking story. So it was basically just like a sexual social woman unraveling with no plot, and then it just culminated in a sexual social ending. But it was like just pure sexual social. It was like this unhinged housewife whose husband wouldn't fuck her, and she just felt so invalidated, and she was like maybe sleeping with this man in a cornfield, and like maybe she killed a dog, and like maybe she left her baby on the side of the road, and she was like taking off her clothes, and it was like being naked in front of children and stuff. But it was like, to me it was like pure sexual social delirium or something. Like it was kind of like beautiful as like a symbol. Actually, that's a good segue topic, because I was gonna ask you about sexual doms being like borderline, or like do you think like sexual doms, it's like female hysteria, like sexual doms are more prone to being kind of like lunatics in general society because they're more like alive and unhinged and like in touch with their like impulses and like ready to like chase the muse, like regardless of whatever their fucking type is? Because I think there's a real unhinged element to the sexual instinct that like almost seems like mental illness to people who are like sexual last, where they just like don't get it. Like they don't get the like giving yourself over to like, like chaos or death drive or like passion or like the moment or something. And so it seems like that person's dangerous. That person's unhinged. Like, do you think that there's like, I think there is definitely a correlation.
I think there could be. Right before we got on this call, I was working on, in this next book, I'm going to have like an instinct section and all that. And I've been, updating my understanding since I published my first book. And I was writing about the development, like in chapter 4 of my book that's out. I talk about the origins of the instinctual drives and where I think they originate developmentally through separation individuation. And there's a stage called rapprochement where the infant, maybe around like 2 years old approximately, has like has had a bit of individuation from its mother, so it's like exploring the world, and its attention is outward, and then it starts to recognize it's vulnerable and starts to bring its focus and attention back to its mother, and it wants to reestablish the merge state with its mother. So it's like the kid kind of is making sense.
Yeah, I'm just grossed out.
The kid starts in a merged state with its mother psychologically, and then it starts to go out into the world and explore its capacities and crawl around. And like little kids at a certain age, like they'll hit their head and it doesn't even seem to fucking affect them, and they'll like look at their parent, and if the parent doesn't freak out, then they're fine. They like do all this stuff. Then at a certain point, they recognize they're separate, and they start to get anxiety. They look back at the parent and all their focus goes back onto the parent, and they're trying to reestablish that earlier stage of merging. This is called rapprochement. And this coincides roughly, or the end of rapprochement coincides with the Freudian genital stage.
Oh
And
God.
I think that, huh?
I wish they would come up with like better terms for it so it wasn't so grotesque. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I associate with like the anal phase. It's like, can you do something else with that? Can you zhuzh it up a little bit so it's like, you know,
Gross.
I don't know. Like no one wants to relate to any of that.
Right. But I think that this sexual identity and the sexual instinct in particular coalesced around this sort of rapprochement into genital state. There are different sort of levels happening, sort of coinciding. And anyway, I think that's the origin of the sexual instinct. And in researching rapprochement, a lot of things like borderline get established in that, or the lack of certain things happening can produce borderline structures and things like that in early life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like I did have somebody ask in the things like, how do you think like the sexual instinct expresses in like childhood? And I'm sure you've talked about this before, but like
Yeah, this is a question I get all the time, and I am always sort of like,
kind of a gross question.
no, I'm sort of confused by it because obviously they're not going to have adult sexual behaviors, but I think that you see it when you're around little kids, like you see their sexual instinct, even if they're not sexual dominant all the time. And what I mean by that is like there are ways like little we when I was 14, my little sister was born. And so like I kind of was a part of raising her as an infant and taking care of her. So I saw that and I have nieces and so I've been around like little kids, my whole life and you see like there are certain times when they're like showing themselves off in this like sort of flirty way. And I think that that is just like slightly more at the forefront of a child with sexual instinct, but like there's a certain universality to expressing this energy in even in childhood
Hmm.
that we're all kind of uncomfortable admitting or something. And so
Hmm.
people are like, what is a child like? But it's like if you're around a kid, they're expressing their energy. You obviously should not act on it, respond to it, and without anything besides just, oh yeah, nice, like,
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah. You
uh,
no shame them.
yeah, no shaming, it's just the part of being a kid. But I think like, I think mothers typically recognize this in children is like, they do all kinds of like, look at me, look at my energy, and part of like what I think people can sometimes misunderstand is like, yeah, sexual instinct is about your physical body and that kind of stuff, but it is like it's about relating to somebody on like an energetic level, which I know is vague as hell, but like we all have a certain vibe. And when you're in a sexual situation, you put forward a certain vibe, and we have different names for it. Like people will call it like one a bit more dom or a bit more subby, and those are like very like classification kind of terms. But like when you're in an intimate situation, uh it's very clear, and there's an energy there that everybody brings, and it can change, not static, but everybody has that energy. And you can see little kids showing off their version of energy as they experience it.
I don't know. I feel like some people have dead zone static.
That's true.
There's no energy at all. Like, and this is kind of like one of the things that I noticed, like working in the coffee shop, was like I started to be able to notice people that had sexual that would come in, like, and it was like not that many, because it would feel like something was happening in the environment. Like I would feel like there was tension or energy or sparkles, or there was like sort of this thing happening, and like I wouldn't feel it for all these, go through like 15, 20 people, and then someone would come in and I'd be like, oh, we're both online, like online, like that's how it kind of almost feels. I started to notice like out in the wild, like it would be like this instant sort of alertness in my, like I'd be like, oh, like okay, like suddenly I'd feel like more just like awake or something, like it was like, oh, this person will play with me, like this person's playing the game too, like it's like, oh, we're zapping, and then you get like other people, and like sometimes it's like I almost feel like I can activate the dead static people, and like they'll sort of come up and then they'll sort of just walk back out, and like it was like their little hit of juice for the day or something. And but some people it's like the energy is like it like fills the whole room is how it feels. But I don't know
Yep.
if you know if that's how you uh interpret it.
I think that everybody's sexual energy has its own flavor and distinct spark, and that some people, no matter where it is in their stacking, it's more alive, and some people it's more dead. And
Are you
I've
saying
known
this because you
sexual.
think I'm sexual last, John?
No, no. Like I just think that there's weird like sexual instinct pride that steeps into the Enneagram, and it's sort of like having had experience with people who are sexual dominant, who it's been very dead energy. I don't think that's like
You
deserved,
think
so to
they are
speak. It's
actually
like,
sexual dominant though?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, like, let's see.
Are you sure? Because, like, I don't know, man. Even when I find somebody really gross, like disgusting or like whatever, it's like I can still feel this like repulsive slime coming out of the person where it's like that person has sexual and there's high in the stacking, like, because it's like I almost feel like I'm being molested by their energy or they're like spreading. Like, it's like I can feel this like this sort of sliming happening where it's like unwanted. So it's like
Yeah,
even if somebody's like, I don't know, I don't know, I feel like it's sexual laughs that don't have any like energy. So this might be where we disagree on sexual instinct, but I don't feel like sexual doms or high sexuals ever feel dead energy to me. They just feel disgusting if they're like
I
not.
think that's one definite expression is disgusting, but I think that there's also sort of this like sexual mannequin energy that some sexual types can have, where
Sexual man threes.
it's like I'm a body to fuck.
I think that's self-pros.
I've seen it in I've seen like maybe I'm wrong, but I've seen it in a lot of different types. Is this like sexual mannequin energy of like I'm made to be fucked, but it's like there's nobody home.
Are they all like nines or threes?
No, I think
Because I know like sexual nines and threes have like a doll energy sometimes. Like,
uh I don't know exactly. I think there's some sexual seven energy in there too that I've seen.
how dare
I know.
you? I don't know if you relate to this as a guy, but like I feel like self-pres doms, whether they're self-pres social or self-pres sexual that I've like dated, they're just like humpers. Like they're not bringing fever, and it's like maybe like the first few times you hook up, there's fever, and then it's almost just like all right, and then it's just like put like sorry, pulling off the clothes, and then it's like let's get to it, and it's like I want to kill myself. Like I feel so depressed and disgusted right now.
I At least where I'm at is like I think everybody's individual sexual energy is its own energy, and then depending on if you're dominant, middle, or blind, it's like how much attention you pay to it, you know? But I really think that everybody's individual sexual energy is very individual. And maybe that's my bias as a four, but like, you know, I mean, the best sexual experiences I've ever had have been with sexual blinds. Uh, and it's just because I think that those particular individuals had a certain sexual note that resonated with mine and it just worked. And I've
That
been with
they were
sexual
for
dominance and
sure
it's just been
sexual blind?
I'm sorry?
You think for sure they were sexual blind?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And it's just a matter of like I think that is, you were speaking to your own process of trying to figure out what your instinctual stacking is. And I think that I don't have a strong opinion on your instinctual stacking, but one of the things that can lead people to not identify with social self-pres, for example, versus self
Yeah.
is that they'll go, oh, but I have a strong sexual energy, or it's like
Yeah.
it's a very alive energy, and they'll be like, oh, that must mean like I'm not sexual blind. And
Well,
I
that
would say,
might mean they're not sexual blind.
I'm sorry.
Well, that might mean they're not sexual blind.
It could, but it doesn't necessarily mean by default. So like you can correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but I think
Yeah.
I'm social blind, but I think I have a pretty good social instinct in the sense of like people tend to like me. I tend to be like easy to get along with. Like I'm able to kind of like relate to people and stuff like this. But I'm social
I don't
blind,
know
and
if that's
do you agree or do you
accurate,
Yeah, I think, maybe I'm wrong, but like I think when I work with clients or like, when I'm in social situations, like people end up liking me.
John. Well,
No,
But that could be,
But
but
maybe,
that's like an interesting pathway, maybe like sexual versus social, because I think there's like so much overlap because it's people oriented. It's like other oriented in the sense that like you to generate something, there has to be another person. So it's like that's kind of like an interesting topic maybe to like unpack of like social versus sexual instinct and like how it's like energizing or like compelling or magnetic or something like because, like, I think people are pulled in by, like, your sexual energy. Like, I think it's because there's something sort of, like, vulnerable and, like, kind of, like, a little bit unpredictable about you. Like, you have a, like, kind of, like, darkness, kind of, like, it's like, oh, like, ooh, there's something going on here that people are pulled into. And I don't really think that, like, social doms have that as much unless they have sexual in their type. Like, social sexuals have, like, a little bit more sort of sparkle in the atmosphere. I don't think so. I think social self-pres are captivating for other reasons, but like I think the sexual pull can feel social because it's people.
yeah, sexual and social both have their objects as people. I don't know in terms of myself, but I know that social self-pres has more investment in having a coherent personhood, a coherent identity and a certain sense of self-coherence. And social sexual is more about there's almost a way that the social vibe might uh inseminate or generate new new unfolding of new layers of self, right? It's sort of like the confetti sperm kind of thing in the atmosphere is, it's sort of this and it can be kind of actually impersonal. And social self-pres is it's very important that you're personal. You know what I mean? It's very like the personal is very important, but it could be kind of so the personhood could be so preserved that ends up becoming very dry and stale.
Yeah,
That makes sense?
yeah, absolutely. It's book club vibes versus get like book club at the bar and everybody just get wasted and nobody talks about the book.
It's like, it's exactly like, all the social stackings can become they're trying to be personal, but they can become very impersonal
Yeah.
very quickly without the last instinct involved.
I think like
Is
social sexual can like trade people in pretty quickly too, where it's like, oh, that's more appealing. And I think that's where it overlaps with seven. And like I did get questions about seven and self-pres last, where people were like, and this was like a huge thing for me a while ago trying to figure it out. But because I think there is that like FOMO discard people. I'm just gonna go with what's the most juicy or exciting, da da da. But I think that like self-pres social is like more trading in the like experiences in the self-pres realm where it's like they're like obsessed with like fucking food or rock climbing or fucking traveling or some shit.
right. It's the instinct of being personal, but they can be so attuned to the energy that the personness of a person is left behind, and you can feel easily like replaced for, even though social is the instinct of personhood, right? It's like I care about you as a entity and as like having an inner life and your own experience. But when it's not grounded with self-pres instinct, social sexual can just, float away into the energy, and it feels everybody feels replaceable, and it feels like they're just
Yeah.
looking.
Yeah. Like it's like a roller coaster, but like of people.
Totally.
Or at least that's how, yeah, like I mean, yeah. I mean, I've been accused of all kinds of stuff over the years because like I once started a birthday party for myself and then I just like didn't show up to it because I found a better party to go to. So
I love that.
I don't know if that's points for social sexual, but
Respect.
did you have like thoughts on like seven versus self-pres labs?
What's the difference between being self-pres last and seven?
Yeah, like a lot of people find that confusing.
I tend to think that people who find that confusing are mistaking, how do I put this? Like, a lot of people just associate seven with being like, I'm into good times, or I'm into high energy. And like, you have to understand seven is its own planet and its own world and its own thing.
Yeah.
like seven is a mental type,
Hmm.
and what they're struggling with is like the mind can imagine anything. And the mind can imagine anything that is better than like this fucking concrete reality.
Fuck yeah.
And if you think about like the juiciest fucking apple that you can think of, and then you taste an actual apple, like the actual apple almost always sucks in comparison to what you imagine it's gonna taste like.
Hmm.
And like you can imagine the hottest sex, the most like fucking erotic, disgusting sex, and then you actually have sex and it's like fine.
Yeah.
The disparity between the imagination and the actuality of a thing is a torment for seven.
Yeah.
It's a torment. And depending on the instinct of the seven, what the torment is focused on is going to be different. Like a self-pres blind seven, the apple or the meal or the job or the lifestyle that's going to allow me to be able to like travel the world, that's not going to be as much of a focus, right? Like that's just not as much what I'm going to give a shit about. But seven is going to be constantly focused on the frustration of the disparity between what I can possibly imagine and what the reality is. And it's like, just like, oh my God, it's like always taking me down into, I don't know, like even the best book you've ever read, there's still parts of that book that suck, that are slog. Like even if it's a sentence, it's still just like, fuck. And that's what seven represents, is this like thing that is bounding me toward uh time and process and limitation. And so it's kind of like a different it's like a category error that people often mistake self-pres blindness and seven for, because like if you're self-pres blind, you can still have like a mercurial fun kind of thing. But the whole point of self-pres blind is you're not considering the weight and consequences and need and importance of lifestyle, physical health, environment. I was recently a friend of mine is a social sexual seven, or I mean nine. I sorry, and they've got a full-blown ketamine addiction.
Mm. Yeah, that seems like such a nine drug.
It's yeah, and like uh,
Are they
you know,
incontinent yet?
I hope not.
They're on their
Uh,
way. That's the next step.
and yeah, and it's bad, but it's like, what they're numbing out from and not incorporating the feedback of the body, right? And from an outside point of view, you can be like, oh, seven kind of does it, but like belt press sevens are still focused on the body. You know what I mean? They're still a lot of their consciousness is invested in the experience of pleasure and freedom through the body, not at the exclusion of the body. You know what I'm saying? Like flavors and physical pleasures, and there's still a way their consciousness is rooted in the body rather than trying to escape the body.
But like I think you're right. I think social can be like hoovering the social experience and like being everywhere, going to all the parties and like being seen everywhere and like maybe like sexual. I don't think sexual is like sexual like tons of sexual partners. I think it's like novel kind of sexual experience where you're like having these crazy romances, these like chaotic collision. And then I think like self-pres is more like I just ate like a squid's asshole and like drank like a bucket of octopus cum.
All right, one of the things is that like sexual blindness, especially self-pres dominance, can be very risky. Like a lot of people think that riskiness in general is sexual, but like a lot of like extreme sports and like I'm eating fire, all this like kind of crazy stuff is like it's risk in the body, it's self-pres risk. And a lot of the most risky physical sort of danger kind of stuff can be self-pres dom sexual blind. But sexual instinct is about psychological risk. It's about changing my sense of self.
Yeah.
And so,
I think it's like also like emotional risk, like high stakes, romantic fallout, sort of like I'm going for broke, like I'm just gonna like run towards this person that makes me feel alive and I don't care if like I lose everything in the process or
definitely can be when it's not balanced by the other instincts. But I mean, the sexual instinct is about like, how do I change and renew my sense of self? And so, the difference between social self-pres and social sexual is social self-pres has a bit more of holding on to a coherent sense of self, whereas sexual or social sexual is a bit more like, how can I provoke enough vibes into the environment so that like maybe it impregnates something new in this dynamic or myself, or there's sort of like there's sort of like I'm hoping that this social interaction uncovers a new facet or edge, whereas social self-pres has more of like an identity coherence thing going on to it. You know, social has much more attention on the person I am and the person you see me as.
yeah.
And sexual has a bit more of attention on a sense of self that is more gestalt, more energetic. And I can see my selfhood and my value as being entirely dependent on this gestalt and energy. And it's like, it's hard to put into words. I know it's kind of frustrating, but it's like there's a certain sexual signature, sexual vibe, sexual display. And when you're,
What is your gestalt, John?
uh,
Do you have like a symbol or a word or like a
yeah, I don't know, but I sort of think that like, I sort of think like my like I would like I don't experience myself as somebody else, right? Like so I don't really know, but I think that like things I bring in are my psychological penetrating Egypt ancient mysteries kind of a thing, artwork kind of a thing, plus like uh I love R&B and dumb music and dancing, kind of like that sort of dumb energy. Uh, and then I sort of am like, um, how do I put it? Like, I'm kind of esoteric and dumb at the same time, I think is like all part of my, like the blender of my energy. Does that make sense?
hmm?
So that's how
Why,
like,
why dumb?
why dumb? It's kind of like I just feel like there's a certain dumbness to celebrating a certain life energy. You know what I mean? Like sex is dumb, and like a lot of like I love 90s R&B and early 2000s R&B. And it's like so passionate, but it's also so dumb. It's like so unafraid to celebrate like sensuality and sexuality in its like and it's funny. Like there's a playfulness to it, but it's like also sincere, right? Like one of my favorite songs is Pony by Genuine, right? And it's like that song is funny in a certain way, but it's also like so serious. And I feel like it's that emotional tone is kind of like the right note for dealing with or contending with like sexual energy, right? It is funny because it's funny because it's sort of it subverts and humiliates our ego, our personality, our social instinct, right? Like when we're in a sexual situation, it like disarms our usual like, we can't be as like kind of like disinterested and sarcastic, we're like because we're horny, right? We're like turned on, we like want it. And we're exposed and we're vulnerable and like in a sexual situation there's like smells and sounds and it's just like it's like a thing that your normal personality, your normal day ego is not like equipped to kind of like deal, like you can't be quippy with it. You know what I mean? You have to just like let it go and you have to exist as an energy. And, it's like people literally take their clothes off, but they take their psychological clothes off. Then they put their psychological clothes back on afterwards. And like, yeah, and it's like, like, oh, this is what I do now. Is like and it's like they but I love that like that experience of like the raw energy that people are. It's like the underneath the clothes of personality, there's like a certain note people are all playing, and the willingness to inhabit that note to me speaks to where in sexual is in their stacking, not their actual sexual energy, because I think everybody's got that into whatever degree it is. I'm not saying everybody's sexy by any means. Most people are not sexy, but it's just sort of like people have
Cosine.
people have that sexual energy, and to what degree that they're comfortable with allowing it to be, you know, to be in the flow of it, it speaks to stacking. And also like, you know, uh I'm like become friends with a lot of nightlife people. And I would say that,
Nightlife people.
like cabaret people and like performers and like people that do orchestrate like different kinds of like, you know, events that are sort of, whatever. And it's just, I don't know, it's just really funny, like um people have a note, and some people are more or less afraid of expressing that note, and there's different contexts where they'll allow that note. And I don't know, there's a whole texture to it that I feel like is not really well unpacked.
It's
Am I
almost like a
making
horseshoe theory or something. It's like emotional sexual intelligence. You have to be retarded to be good at it. Kind of thing that I wanted to pick your brain about. Here's a phenomenon. Again, you might not agree with me having sexual my type, but here's a phenomenon that like I felt way before I knew about the Enneagram was that I felt like I would walk into a bar and I would spritz people with like my pheromones. Like I would just stare at them and be like, psst, psst. Like I would be like spraying them somehow and like pulling them to me, like they would become intoxicated. And then like when I started learning the Enneagram and stuff and being out in the real world, I noticed like people would send me sex bombs. Like that's what it feels like is a sex bomb. So that's like how I quantify it now is like I'm like where I'm like, oh, like I catch myself sometimes where I'm like sending somebody a sex bomb where I'm like trying to create like a feeling inside of them without them like knowing what I'm doing exactly. But then sometimes people do it to me and I get like so grossed out where it's like, what was it? Like it's like an old man or something. Like, do you know what I'm talking about though? Like, is that something that you you register or no? Sex
uh
bomb, sex bomb.
what you're talking about?
Like energetically bombing somebody with like sexual energy. Like, have you ever done that or experienced that, or do you know what I'm talking about? Oops.
Yeah, I think so. So one caveat is it's really been only in like the last year that I've distant like I've chronically thought I was very unattractive for a long time, and to a point where I had sort of body dysmorphia, and it's only been in the last year where I've like unpacked that and worked through that. And so now that I have, I do notice that energy coming at me in a way that I used to never, like I just never thought it was coming at me. So like it's sort of a new phenomenon to me in a certain way. But but yeah, I notice like that vibe being passed around. And uh
Vibe being
and
passed around. Well, I have wonder if
yeah,
it's actually self-pres or sorry, that it's the social last don't notice it perhaps as much as like self-pres last notice it because like I feel like it is in the it's in the atmosphere, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I feel like I notice when I'm like that person wants to fuck that person. Like I can feel that that person wants to fuck that person is fucking that person behind that other person's back. Like I can feel it. I can smell it. But I don't
Yeah,
know if
no,
like social last can.
no, I think that's a social dom thing. I've definitely felt where I've like, like within groups, people will be like I'll be like, this guy's trying to fuck her. And I'd be like, no, they're just friends. And then like, months later, that's what happened, and it's like I saw all that coming. But I don't, maybe that's being sexual type. I don't know, but everybody like, oh, pish posh. No, like, yeah, like, like, oh, you're just a paranoid sexual type. And it's a social thing. And I'm like, no, it's not at all. I can call
Feel
out,
it.
you can feel it a million percent. And then everybody acts like, oh, no, and it's,
I've
yeah.
had conversations with like my friend Christine that I've mentioned before, who I did a video with, where it's like almost feels like sexual is the secret language sometimes, like where you're passing back like messages kind of and like other people aren't clocking it. Like, do you get that? Do you have that too or no? Where it's like
I
there's this undercurrent to what you're doing where it's like you're doing this thing, you're saying this thing, or you're doing this thing, but then there's like this layer underneath it that's like really what you're doing or saying. And it's like this was just the vehicle for this thing underneath it. Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
A little bit. I mean, to me, it's just the language. Like, it's not even an undercurrent language. Like, it just doesn't have to
Okay.
be like
No
super
hidden.
corny, but it's just sort of like, um, yeah, I mean, I don't know, you're on, like, I just feel like when the energy is active, it's so thick.
Mhm.
And, and it's funny. Like, sexual energy is sort of funny. At least that's how I interpret it because of whatever. But like, you're talking to you're talking to somebody that you're interested in, and then there's just this sort of like what's the move? Kind of escalating energy. And you're not like speaking it out loud, like, oh, this is what's happening. You're not getting intellectual about it, but you can feel the kind of like the build in it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but I'm wondering if like the social last version is more like, not to be rude, but like clunky or like primary. Or like I don't know if that's like primordial or something, like basic. I wonder if like self-pres last are like doing something a little bit more elevated because they're social. So there's like symbolism woven into it, or like there's sort of these levers that are sort of being utilized that like social last maybe don't have access to.
Well, I'll say what I've
Not to diminish your ability
no,
to
you're
like
right.
sprinkle your appeal or whatever.
No, but I've been in multiple circumstances where I've been like, this person is just not into me, and then like, and I'm just gonna be like, just like continue as friendly or whatever, and then it's been like, oh no, they're into me, and
Were they
it's
sexual
like,
last though?
I think so
I
in a
really
lot of
feel like
situations.
you can tell when somebody has sexual and they're interested in you. Like I feel like you could like there's like it's like you're exchanging messages through Wi-Fi. Like that's how it feels to me. Like because like again, like I just keep talking about my Joe job. God, I want to blow my brains out. This guy came in, he looked like a TMU version of you, like who grew up in like a shitty small Canadian town, like just like full transparency. He came in like in November or something, and like he like we like locked eyes from like many like very far away, and I was like, oh, that guy has sexual like that guy has sexual in his type, like that guy's a sexual dom probably. Like he felt social last to me when I encountered him, and then a couple weeks later, he just started like showing up at my work and like would hang out for like an hour. And he wouldn't go, he wouldn't buy anything, he wouldn't go anywhere, just and then he'd come ask me some questions, talk to me a little bit, and then leave. And it went on for days, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? I think he like was a sexual self-present, just like locked in. And then he gave me this, it was like the worst, literally the worst timing ever. Like he came in on this parade. I wanted to kill people worst time. And he was like, "Can I have a cup and a pen?" And I was like, "Ugh," and I just like threw them at him. And like I was into him, but I was like annoyed. And then he like wrote on it like, "Will you go out with me? Yes or no?" Like it was so juvenile. I don't know. I think he's in his 30s, but he and then I wanted to, but then I was so mad that I he came back and I was like, "No." And then I changed my mind and I was like, "Why did I do that? I feel like that guy would probably be like fun to hang out with." And then I like did something really creepy and I took a photo of the cup and I put it in this collage and I put yes on the cup and I put it on the internet in case you stalked me and found me. I'm gonna have to cut this out. And then he like the day after I did that, he came back to my work and he was like in a sweat, like he was like sweaty and like looked confused. And then he was like, "Oh, I lost my wallet. Oh, did you find my wallet?" And I was like, "You don't spend any money. Like, I know you didn't lose your wallet, you fucking loser." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, let me go look for your wallet." And I pretended to look for his wallet, and I thought he was gonna, but he was almost like, also, but in that time, I like purposely looked at him, like, I looked at him like, like I was sending him a message through Wi-Fi. And then he just started panicking and then he like broke into a frenzy and left. I found out he was married later, so maybe that was part of it. But anyways. Sorry.
Damn, shitty end of that story.
I feel like he's gonna come back, but I can feel it. He's going to because I'm sorry, you don't have that like level of like with somebody and just like move on with your life. You just don't. So, but I would be curious, like, if you know what I'm talking about, like with that, where you just like lock in on somebody, because I feel like I feel like he was sexual self-pres. Like, I recognize that energy, um, of just like you fixate, and it's like the social oblivion of like, I look like Norman Bates. Like, I look like a psycho right now, but I'm not aware that I look like a serial killer.
I think I think that could definitely be sexual self-pres, but I think that the hallmark of sexual self-pres energy is blending your sexual signature with your sense of vitality,
What do you mean?
right? So it's like when you blend self-presence sexual together, it's like your sense of like sexual potency and stamina and vitality. It's like you're sort of displaying that like I'm a fit, formidable sexual force,
Okay.
right? Like, there's this sort of like this kind of like look at my meat, and it's like,
He did tell
um,
me he was a personal trainer.
all right, there you go. Yeah, so that's a good sign. And and then, like you're sort of you don't as a sexual self-present, you don't really think your personhood is part of your appeal. Like it just seems like an afterthought.
Like your personhood meaning like your personality or like your
Like if you and I were on a date and you were like asking questions about me, I
hmm.
would be like, what? Like, I just wants to know about like my background, my family, and like be like, or my thoughts about things. Like, I'd be more like, oh, well, look, there's some paintings. Oh, look, like, do you find my body? It's sort of like I'm objectifying myself as a social blind.
Okay, yeah.
And so then I like so
It lacks
people who
nuance. It lacks nuance.
well, it's like the like part of what social blinds don't get is that the texture of your personhood can be appealing and attractive.
Mhm.
And instead, like at least speaking for myself as a sexual self-pres, and I think this is true for other sexual self-preses, like when you're interested in somebody, you're sort of insecure that they've had basically a body that is more interesting and attractive and alluring and smells better and all these other things that like their sexual signature has been more fitted to their preferences than yours.
Oh,
Where
wow.
somebody with a more social instinct is it like that could be true or not, but that's not really what they're weighing value on. They're
Yeah,
weighing
no,
value,
I wouldn't have even like thought of that.
yeah, where it's like it's very like am I what am I the kind of meat in the grocery store that you like want to bite into? It's like that thing. And if you're like, oh, John, what are your thoughts about, I don't know, fucking blah blah blah, be like, all right, I'll tell you, but what does that have to do with anything? Like, whereas a social type might be like, oh, but your thoughts on this thing is like what I'm using as a metric to gauge if you're a worthy partner or not, or if I can feel safe enough to be really turned on with you, kind of a thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, and that's interesting because I feel like part of your appeal is your intellect. So it's like the fact that you're like kind of not capitalizing on that, or you're not like associating that as part of your like sexual persona is like kind of interesting. I'm pretty sure I've dated two sexual self-preses because the chemistry was fire, but it was like we just like had nothing to talk about. It was just like chemistry, and that was great for like the chunk of months that each of those relationships existed for. But it was like eventually it was like the one I think it was a sexual self-pres 3, 7, 9, or 8. It was like the hottest relationship I think of my life, and I hated him. So we got chased out of strip clubs, we like got almost arrested. Like it was like so much fun. But then yeah, it was but I fucking hated him. So
Well, if he's a sexual self-pres, there's a part of him that's like, all right, that's enough. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
he's the hottest. He's got that like, that rank in your psyche or whatever.
Well, yeah, and he actually did reach out to me. Like, I think he weirdly picked up on me thinking about him. I wonder if I feel like this is a sexual dom thing too, but this could be me making this up. I feel like there's like a psychic component to having sexual in your type where you can almost like sense when somebody's thinking about you or wants you again, or like there's like this feeling that you can tap into. And like I feel like I've accidentally reactivated shit with people by just like focusing on them a little bit, or like I did that I like did that with him, and it was like he came out of nowhere and suddenly was in my emails like, oh, I'm coming to Toronto, are you around still? I was like, bro, I've looked you up. You look bad now. Like, I'm not meeting up with you. Do you use sexual energy to actualize? Like, is sexual like motivation for you important to like make SP shit happen or social shit happen? Like, where you're like, I need to have a crush, or like, I need to have like a person that I have to impress, or fucking whatever. And so, like, that will cause me to like get in shape or make money or like not be a hot mess or something. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is that like a thing that you experience?
Absolutely. There's like a Dave Chappelle joke where he says something like if women would fuck you in a cardboard box, then why like you would never get a home or something like this. And like I find that to be really true where I don't really care circumstances or anything, but I know like when I first started when I was in college, I spent my first year like almost entirely alone. I had a
Oh.
few friends, but I was like very, very alone. And I was wondering like why my life was so boring and what was going on. And I realized, oh, your interesting experiences and meeting girls happens through having friends. And so that was like, oh, I need to work on my social instinct and just hang out with people to get to know friends and and to get to know, to have friends to get to know girls and to have interesting experiences. And then when it comes to anything related to money or lifestyle, like, you can see my fucking room here. It's not nothing impressive, but it's like
Cultivated.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's my artwork, but like, I live in like a small apartment, I don't make that much money, but what I put my money toward or my even my aim to make money is primarily because I have anxiety that a woman would not really be attracted to me or choose me if I don't have my shit together financially.
Mhm.
And so one of my major struggles with doing financial like planning is I can feel like my energy levels for whatever creative thing I'm working on, whether it's writing or whether it's painting, being like up to 11, and then like my like energy to work on something financial is like at one, and it feels like turning this huge fire hose really down to a trickle to kind of deal with this stuff. And I'm like, oh, I got to open a high yield savings account. It's like, all right, I'll get good interest rates, or like, and it just feels like I'm dying.
Do you have
But
like more fuel when you are fantasizing and idealizing and you don't have the person than when you get the person?
no, I find like it's almost like when I have a person, I'm more like I'm gonna be like let's see how to put this. Like I'm very lame. I've always want like I since I was a small child, I've always wanted to like find my wife.
No.
I always wanted to be. I remember being in second grade. There was this girl, and I was like calculating how many years we'd have to be together to like be married. I've always
Oh.
I've never wanted to like sleep around or anything like this. I've always wanted my one person. And, in different times when I've had long-term relationships, I've thought like this is my person and I'm gonna try to figure it out and get it together. And so like even part of like making like publishing my own book, on one hand, I wanted to publish a book for myself. I wanted my ideas out there, whatever, but it was also sort of like, oh, I thought it'd be like a um I thought one, it would be like attractive basically to be an author. And two, it would give me the financial, like it would use my talent in a way that would give me a foothold into building sort of like things that could earn me money so that like some woman would not think I was a fucking loser with no money, but that I was like making a life out of my own talent and interests. And, I know so many rich people and generally speaking, a lot of their souls are very dead because they just like they're doing something completely like they don't even know what to spend money on because they don't have enough personality cultivated to have things they're interested in to spend money on.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I'm kind of rambling, but you get what I'm saying is like my sexual instinct will motivate me to pay attention to my other instincts is the short of it.
I have had this like a bit of a thought about like sexual instinct in art creation, but it might not be right. Where it's like if you have like a high sexual instinct, it's like you almost like need there to be chaos or something when you're creating art. Like it can't be fully planned out. There has to be like live energy or something. Like you have to be like getting ideas from the thing that you're creating or like creating from the creation. Like it can't like you can start from a place, but like people who do like I feel like elaborate thumbnails, like sometimes I'm like I feel like that's SPSO, but
I don't know what your thumbnail thing refers to, but in terms of creating when I do work with clients and they're working on their sexual instinct and like let's say they're in a happy relationship or something like that, it's like what is the value of the sexual instinct then? And in my opinion, sexual instinct is kind of what you're describing is like if you're creating something, your enthusiasm for like the thing that is pouring out of you, right, is like sexual instinct. It's like a healthy self-interest that's sort of not about self, but it's about an interest in the energy that is moving through you. And so it's like when I'm painting or a musician is doing music, it's not like oh let me plan out this composition, but it's sort of like when I'm playing, it's sort of like oh yeah, this is what's happening through me now. And you can feel it in certain songs or you can feel it in certain painting. Like I'll be painting and I've planned it to some extent. I know what the composition is going to look like, but I haven't been like, all right, this is what all the colors going to look like, and here is when you mix, cadmium umber with blah blah blah. It's and a lot of people that call themselves artists have not tapped into their artistic fountain in themselves. And
yeah.
I don't think it's about where I mean it could be, but I don't think it's about where it is in your stacking because I think that like I said, I've known plenty of sexual doms that I think are like grotesque sexually. And I think that I've known plenty of sexual blinds that are very sexy, and it's sort of like your sexual energy is your sexual energy. Your stacking is how are you relating and integrating it, in your sense of self.
Yeah.
And so some people can have a compartmentalized or not very well related to sexual energy. And then at a certain point in their life, they relate to it with more consciousness and integrate it, and it becomes more part of their self. And then, you know, as they fluctuate, they can distance themselves or integrate it. It's like a whole, it's really complicated.
So do you think people's stackings can change, like the order of their instincts?
No, I think it's like a tense muscle. I always use this metaphor. It's like a tense muscle you can consciously relax,
Mhm.
but then when you're in a period of stress or you're under you're automatic, you kind of go back to that tension.
Mhm.
So it's like see, like I do Wing Chun Kung Fu now. Either the certain like part of Kung Fu is like you have to be extremely relaxed. And so like the other day we were doing these basically drills where somebody was like trying to slap us and
Did you like it?
I liked it. And there's two ways we were practicing where it's sort of just like just doing this, but then there's also this like the main position in Wing Chun Kung Fu is gotcha Cao. And then so you can kind of like when someone slaps you block and then you do this because there's like this line you're protecting or whatever. And it's like if you're tense, your movement is going to be so fucked up. Like your punches, everything is going to be so fucked up. But if you're relaxed, everything moves really smoothly. And so the same thing psychologically, whereas like our stacking is like when we're getting slapped, you start to kind of like you start doing this because you're flinching or whatever. You have to
Mhm.
remember like consciously under your person, your partner like trying to slap you is you just got to keep relaxing under the slap and you become really effective and like you can move like very quickly. Whereas if I'm going, it's like they get over it really fast because you're tensing up.
I want to be able to do that with like my energy. What do you think about like engulfment related to the instincts?
What do you mean engulfment?
Like the feeling of like being smothered, suffocated, consumed.
They are so like the feeling of engulfment, I think, goes back to early life when you are individuating from your mother and you're sort of your merged state with your mother. And it's a really complicated process called separation individuation, where you start to establish a separate sense of self from your mother. And you start to invest like libidinal or like psychological energy into different resources that become substitutes for your mother.
Mhm.
So in early life, there's a period of it's called like the dual unity where you're in a merged state with your mom. And your mom is there to like basically help you discharge when your nervous system gets activated. So you get hungry, you get fed, then your nervous system goes back to a baseline. If you need contact, your mom holds you, and then you go back to a baseline. And over time, there's this sort of charge discharge um, pattern that happens, hopefully, where the infant learns that when they get charged, that mother will be around to discharge them. And that develops something called basic trust, where it's sort of like you trust that you're going to be taken care of in reality. But then there's a period where the child cannot discharge all the tension in the nervous system. And part of the reason for that is because the child is interjecting and absorbing a lot of the unconscious, unprocessed stress in the mother's nervous system because their boundaries are so open.
Mm.
And it leads the child to start to separate psychologically and physically from its mother is like it gets to an age where it starts to be able to squirm, like look out, or like if you ever seen like those, mother holding their baby and their baby's kind of like doing a whole backflip trying to get out of their arms.
Yeah,
It's like there's
I have childhood photos of me like that.
right. And so there's this attempt to get out of the mother's energy and try to explore the world. And then that's the period before rapprochement that I mentioned with the sexual instinct where it's like attention goes back to mom. But anyway, in all those there's these different stages that I think that the different instincts develop in. Like I think that the separation stage is the beginning of self-pres. I think rapprochement is the beginning of sexual. And I think that the resolution of the rapprochement conflict, which is called optimal distance, is the beginning of the social instinct, where how do I find the right kind of emotional distance from mom where I'm co close enough with her to get her care and goodwill and all these different things, but I'm not so close that I piss her off and I get rejected, or I'm so close where she overrides my boundaries. So in all three instincts, there's this fear of engulfment. And
Have
in
you noticed a trend like for how it shows up for the three different instincts? I mean, this is like a hyper specific question, so
Yeah, it's a really broad answer, so I don't know if I could like really satisfyingly answer it all, but all three instincts have this like what I call like an autonomy conflict.
mhm.
It's in my chapter 4 of my book, but
Yeah,
there's
let's
this
pimp it, pump it.
I've got johnluckovich.com and then I've got the enneagramschool.com with Josh and uh I've got like Josh and I have the intro course that I'm very proud of that we recorded together. It's like it's a little expensive, I know, but it's 9 hours of audio. It's like I think it's the best thing on the Engram out there. Um, and it comes with like, there's like a PDF book comes with, but I think it's the best way to learn the Enneagram and very proud of it. Josh is sort of a little burned out with the Enneagram right now, so I don't know when part 2 is going to come out, but we've got that. We got a bunch of workshops on that website and then
On the enneagramschool.com.
enneagramschool.com. I've got a lot of writing on johnluckovich.com and then yeah, I got to figure out something with social media and then I got an in-person retreat that we're probably going to do in April with my friend Kathy McDonald, who I've been teaching her breath work for several years. And so it's going to be like an Enneagram and breathwork centric workshop in New York City. I think it's going to be in April, I think 10 to the 12th or something, but we haven't nailed down dates
What
yet. So
happens? Do you, my friend, my dear friend, Farah, told me that she had an experience with you where you like did breath work with her and it like transformed her. I
yeah, I
think it's
mean,
more important to have that experience in person.
I mean, I do it with online with people, but in person, I think is a lot more potent. Uh, there's a lot of reasons for that. Like for people, I guess, listening that don't know what breathwork is, it is a surprisingly potent modality of like healing basically and working with trauma based on like a very simple adjustment of breath, but it balances the sympathetic and the parasympathetic branches of the autonomic nervous system and allows a lot of stuff to come up that is normally unconscious. And I mean, you can have very powerful experiences. Some of them are kind of like almost psychedelic, like old stuff that you thought you would never be able to process or heal from comes into awareness. And so, yeah, we're gonna she and I've been doing breathwork for years together, and I've like many years of studying breathwork on my own. And so I did a retreat in May last year that was really good on essence qualities, and we used breathwork. And so people were like, "Oh, we want to focus more on breath work." So part of the use of breath work and the Enneagram is not just, "Oh, they're good, they're both good things," but that a lot of our personality is the way it is because we're looking basically for our qualities of essence to show up in the style of our type. So if I'm a 7, I'm looking for essence to show up as essential freedom.
Mhm.
If I'm a 4, I'm looking for essence to show up as essential depth. And when it shows up as essential harmony, like 9, I go, that's not essence. I dismiss it, right? And there's a way in which I'm sort of saying no to a lot of when essence shows up because it's not coming through the lens of my type. Does
I
that
like
make sense?
that. Yeah, I like that frame. But do you feel like people's like SX energy though? Like you feel it like out in the wild, right? Does it ever trigger you or cause you to recoil or like do you yeah.
I mean, I feel like sexual energy is very selective in general, right? It's very like your own sexual energy is very, very specific, and we're all looking for a specific note to resonate with. And it's very rare to find somebody that really genuinely resonates with your sexual energy. It's easy to find somebody who will sleep with you, right? And that you can kind of be like, they're hot enough, but like somebody that really like pulls out a specific kind of energy out of you is rare. And so most sexual energy is repellent. And it's not a personal thing. It's not because they're gross or something like that. We might make up stories. If you're in your sexual energy, a huge amount of people are just not attractive to you. And that's to the intelligence of the sexual energy. Just like in social, you're in a room with people, you're not going to like everybody by any means. You're going to figure out being in touch with your social energy means I'm going to have discernment around my who I give my social energy to and who I like. Same thing with sexual.
What would be like if like okay, like a sexual last is sending you sexual energy or like you can feel it in the wild. How does it like differ from somebody with like higher sexual like once you're done texting?
It really depends. I've had like there are some sexual blinds that I felt their energy and it has felt immature and sloppy.
Hmm.
There's some sexual blinds that have directed sexual energy that I felt like it's special. I felt like, and I resonate as maybe it's a fourth thing, feeling like there's a special connection or there's something unique here, but it's like, oh, they're giving me something that they don't give everybody, and I feel chosen.
Hmm.
And there's been some sexual doms I felt chosen by, and there's been some sexual doms that I felt like, oh, their identity is wrapped up in being this sexual magnet.
Yeah,
And I think
sexual threes are like that.
it's been, but it's been others than three. It's like there can be just certain individuals that it's like their identity is wrapped up in being a sexual object. And I feel like, oh, I'm just a part of the in the room Rolodex right now.
What is my note? What is my note? What do you get off me, John? What signature do I give you?
We'd have to we'd have to get to know each other. So
The symphony has yet to be written.